Hello and welcome to a VO's Journey podcast. My name is Anthony Pica. This show is about helping the new and upcoming voiceover artists grow their business and sidestep all of the crazy things that I seem to step on. I'm excited about today's episode. It is all about branding, and I just got done doing a live video, and I wanted to come on and do a quick podcast for you guys about where I am personally in my branding journey and how maybe you can learn from what I'm doing, and as always, try to maybe sidestep some of the mistakes that I've done, all right? Let's do it.
This is VO's Journey. With your host, the incomparable Anthony Pica.
Okay, so let's talk about branding and what I'm currently doing and what I've done. So, I think that the pushback that I always get from branding and what people say is that, you have to be branding a very specific thing to reach and target a specific audience, I think, and this is just from my limited opinion, I think there is truth in that, but I also think that can also become an excuse. And what I mean by that is that it's easy to say, hey, look, I don't have anything to say that would make sense to, people in the plumbing industry. So why should, so what am I going to do to target plumbing companies in order to do voiceovers for them? Right? You know what I'm saying? Or for example, what do I have to say in my story that has anything to do with audio production companies or running a studio or, how to generate, more clients per hour for the, yes, I totally understand what many people are saying when it comes to, the type of content that they're trying to create for the specific audience. However, I think what is happening is we are using that as such an excuse not to just create, that it is causing a complete opposite effect, meaning we're not doing anything when it comes to putting out content or branding ourselves. And here's what I want you to remember. And this was a big aha moment for me. And I know this is just different in thought process. But think about this. All of the businesses and the companies and the things you want to work for or we want to do business with, they are run by people. And I mean, I know you're like, well, that's a shocker, Anthony, but think about it though. Stop and think about it. They are run by people. Those people have problems. Those people have exciting things going on in their lives. Those people have families. They have bills. They've got, that crazy, uncle or cousin or niece or nephew that can't stop getting in trouble. They've got all of those things that you and I have, which means that we don't need all of that special, knowledge and vocabulary and all of that stuff to connect with people and to start branding our business. What we need is to start getting our story out there. We need to start communicating with people about who we are and what makes us unique and special, and how what makes us unique and special can help them and on their journey. Because what we do is just a commodity, right? What we do is a commodity. But our brand, our story, that's who we are. And that is worth more than any voiceover we could ever possibly do. So as I'm talking about that, I want to dive into, or as I'm talking about it, it just made me think about getting back to what I'm doing and what's currently happening with me and where I've kind of come from. So, right now I'm trying very hard, as you've noticed, to spread out my wings and take the content that I'm trying to create and get it in on as many platforms as possible and the most efficient way as possible. That has definitely been a journey on its own. When I first started, of course, I just started with a podcast, and I did start with Instagram actually and doing some Instagram posts. The first thing I actually started on Instagram was posting pictures of studios and microphones and stuff. And at the time, this was over like almost 2 years ago, it was pretty cool. I mean, I got, a decent amount of likes, but it wasn't, there wasn't anything behind any of that. It was just, I just liked the way those things look, and I didn't really have anything that, to say. But when I started my podcast, I think that's what changed. I wasn't on Twitter. I wasn't on YouTube. I think I had done something on YouTube. Like I had put up some funny different things, but that didn't happen until later. But I hadn't started my really YouTube channel yet. All I had done was I started my podcast in March of last year. So I guess that's been about a year and a half, right? So anyways, when that happened, it really started getting me to reflect upon my story and what I was doing or what I was trying to do. Now, remember, in all the training and all the things I had learned, everybody always talked about, well, you've got to talk about your past, or, what happened to you? Where are you coming from? What makes you unique and special and different? And all of this really confused me because, yes, I know there are things that make me different and unique, and the same with you. But what happened to me is that I was like, well, I don't know what to say when it comes to my own story. How many people do I, want to tell about, the personal things that I don't want people to know about? But it's not, actually that's not true. It wasn't what I didn't want people to know about. It was that I didn't know what it had to do with, my journey right now. Do you know what I'm saying? So what I decided to do was I'm just going to document my journey. I'm going to document my journey, and I'm going to talk about what I'm going through, what's happening to me. And I tell you, the big reason I started it was because I saw that I was trying to find people who actually were in the similar situation as me, meaning like people who were starting out. They weren't, they were just kind of in the beginning of the process. They didn't know that much. Like there was nothing out there that actually related to people who were just starting. Everything was being done from people who were like where I am now, or we're running a full-time business, or we're doing those things. Nothing was for anybody who was just starting. So I was like, this would be a great opportunity for me to stay true to what I'm trying to do, document my story, and also maybe connect with other people out there who don't have anyone to connect with because they, don't have someone talking about the actual things happening from their point of view. So that's why I started the podcast. And when I first started, if you listen to episode 1 and go back, you can tell things are just completely different from when I started then to when I started now. You can tell by the audio. You can tell by my confidence. You can just tell that it was then. But, I made it through, and I kept going, and I talked about all the things that I thought would help. Sometimes I taught, sometimes I talked about what I was going through. I talked about my trials and errors, things I tried out with marketing that didn't work, things I tried out here or there. I did whatever I could. And I feel like it has put together a somewhat decent picture of the story that I did, starting from not very much to becoming full-time at this, and then continuing on afterwards to help other people. So with that being said, as I've come along, I've started to want to grow my influence, because as I realized, the more influence, and when I say influence, it's probably, think of influence as a way to guide attention. Okay, so don't think of influence as just like getting, you can influence people to do stuff, but it's more so like, for me, the influence I'm talking about is that I have people's attention. And I don't have millions of people's attention, but I have some people's attention now. And it's nice to have attention because you can help more people. You can guide more people to things that will hopefully help them be successful. But here's the thing. When you are doing that, in the meantime, people are learning to trust you. So for me, I wanted to build that trust over a variety of different places, but I didn't have a means of doing it in a manner in which at any time it made sense to me, meaning that I knew what I wanted to accomplish, but I had no idea how to accomplish it and how to accomplish it in an efficient manner. So I started following certain people, certain content creators that were talking about, the importance of social media and doing things like that. And by the way, at the time too, I didn't really see any boost to anything I was doing from any of my social media or my branding efforts or my content. I didn't see anything, and I didn't have anything. I wasn't selling anything. I was just putting out content. And, it was, some of it was good. Some of it was really awful. Some of it was useless. And the useless stuff was the stuff that had nothing to do with my story, right? Had nothing to do with who I was. So as I have progressed and made it to where I am now, I have realized that what I want to do is I want to capture my story and everything that I'm doing every single day. And I want to share that in a way that the most amount of people can digest that content, use it, see it quickly. Hopefully it helps them with their story and helps them to get to know me and my story a little bit better. And together we can build our businesses and move forward. So that's the goal. And as I continue to put my strategy together, what happens is now that I've figured out some things, and it's funny because here's the thing, you can be told something like 20 times and you know it, but you don't really know it, right? Or more so, you don't understand how it actually fits into your life. And then there are moments when that aha happens where you finally understand how it fits into your life. If you know what I'm talking about, then you understand what I'm saying, because I know I've been, and same with school or education or whatever, we can read something, we can learn it, we can understand it, but we don't understand how it fits for us or how we're actually going to use it until we do. So with that being said, as I finally figured out, do you know what I mean, that is what's happened. By the way, I wanted to mention too, how I figured this out was also from all of the work I do with so many other people and the connections and them talking to me about what they thought about what I was doing and the content I was putting out and the feedback I got from so many other voice actors and businesses and people who just talked to me about the things that I was creating and how it helped them and what was important to them, like my story. And it's interesting, when I talk to other businesses and when they talk to me about my story and how exciting my story was, when I first started, it wasn't exciting because I hadn't built a story. And you guys, this is if this is the most important piece of this content, it's right here. You are probably going to start without a story. You're going to start at the beginning. You're going to start and there's nothing there. But that's where you have to start to build your story. And as you build your story, it will craft itself. And then one day you will realize, oh my gosh, I have an incredible story that people connect with. Like when I first started, guys, the podcast, and I wanted to be a full-time voiceover artist, yes, I had the dream, but I didn't know I was actually going to be able to do it. I hoped I would. I prayed that I could do it, and I wished it, but I didn't know that it would actually happen. But I still did it anyways, and I documented it anyways. And of course, now I can look back and I can make this podcast today and tell you, hey, look at me, I did it. Woohoo, it's that simple. But at the time, I had no clue I was actually building the story that would propel me to the future of my entire life. But now I have a story because I built it from nothing, and you can too. You just have to have faith and a goal and then go for it and continue doing it until you reach it. And the wonderful thing about documenting it is once you document it, it will always be there. Anyone can go back and listen from my first episode of my podcast, and my story will always be there for them to listen to. Forever. That is power, you guys. And I mean that in the kindest way of when you say power, it's power of trust. It's power of proof. It's power of who I am. It's power of what's possible for all of us. That is helpful and wonderful. But you have to go out on a limb and start without having the end of the story. Right? And of course, my story's not over, but it's very clear that I've done that. And by the way, as and I know I just said this, but again, I got to say it again. I didn't start out completing this story. I didn't start out with having finished, becoming a full-time voiceover. I didn't start out with having a whisper room and, tens of thousands of dollars of equipment. I started out with nothing, not knowing where I would end up. I had dreams, but I didn't know if I would really ever get there. But I kept going and moving forward, and I kept documenting my dream and my vision and my drive. That is what you need to be doing, because it doesn't matter if you document and I document, because our stories are different no matter what. And your story is going to be different too. Don't let your story be untold. It will be one of the greatest assets you have ever created. Do you know, of all the things I've done, my podcast, I really believe this podcast right here has been one of the most special things I've ever done in my life. It has been the only time I've ever documented any part of my life. It has been the only time that I've ever laid down a goal or a dream or a vision and went 100% from beginning to end of not knowing what was going to happen and actually accomplished it. This is that time. This podcast has been that for me. And even if it's just been an inspiration for my own self, it has been wonderful. And my hope is that it's been an inspiration to you and to other people. And what I want you to know is that you can do the same thing. And it's not being selfish. It's not being mean or crazy or I'm better than you or I've done this, you haven't done that. People need to know what's possible out there. They need to know that someone in their similar situation can rise above and do more than they ever thought possible. That's what you can give to people by documenting your journey. Now, on a side note, I don't want you to think that, okay, well, documenting is the only way, right? You have a message. You have a message that you want to tell people. Maybe you have a message that you want people to, do X, Y, Z because it's going to save this or save that, or it's going to grow this, or we're all going to become a better community. You can say whatever you want to say, but documenting your journey is what people are interested in, no matter what it is, whether it's voiceover or not. Document your journey. Write it down. Do a video. Do a podcast. Do a couple of tweets or something. Do something. Just don't let it pass by. And whatever you do, please don't think that this doesn't matter, because it does. Today, if you are not seen on social media, if you are not out there on the internet, you are not being seen by anyone. All right? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. And it is such a joy to be able to talk to you and know that hopefully this helps you grow your business and helps you grow your dream. So please, if you can, leave a comment on iTunes or Spotify or whatever about this podcast and share it with somebody. Let them know about it if they're struggling or they're just beginning, or maybe they've gotten stuck in a rut and they need, maybe just a little pick-me-up or some other way of thinking, all right? Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful Monday. I will talk to you tomorrow. All right. Peace.